What's up, guys? Welcome to Information Operation. I'm Connor Ryan, and we're coming at you from Marquette, Michigan. We're bringing you your locally sourced ideas, thoughts, and inquiries. Today on the podcast, we feature Curtis Hewitt. He is a husband, a father, a teacher, and a mentor. Curtis is also an expert in Medicare planning and asset protection, so it was fascinating to sit down and talk about what drives him to help people make the most of the money they've earned and make the most of the lives they have to lead. So Kurt, thanks for being here, man.
Hey, my pleasure.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I'd like to start out by getting into what you do.
Currently, I work with the senior market. I do Medicare planning and asset protection planning for them.
Right. Which sounds like a lot of words to me, and
Yeah.
I'd like to understand it more.
Yep. You're a long way from Medicare, so
Yeah.
it's going to be quite a while before you have
Right.
to worry about that.
So
But
it's insurance.
yeah, it is. It is insurance products. And what we do is when people turn 65, that's a magical time in everybody's life. 18, 21, unfortunately, sometimes 40.
Yeah.
Those are kind of like
Magical
magical
times.
numbers.
Benchmarks, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
benchmarks. And so when people hit 65, they're ready for retirement, and they need to have somebody help them out with trying to figure out what Social Security is, what
Sure.
Medicare is, how that affects them and their health insurance.
Yeah. Some sort of
And
long-term plan.
it is a longer term plan for the rest of their life.
Hmm.
At 65, when you're consulting with somebody, depending on how healthy they are, the choices they make at turning 65 can affect them for the rest of their life. So if they don't have the proper consultation later on, it could come back to bite them
Right.
when
When they're
uh,
helpless.
right, because if they're unhealthy and they got uh, misinformation,
Yeah.
and I don't necessarily always think it's something that somebody else did that was
Right.
negligent. It's once again it's knowledge and consciousness that maybe didn't get passed along properly. Everybody
Right.
uh, learns and understands things a little bit differently, but if they're unhealthy and they didn't get what they call credible drug coverage
Right.
for their Medicare, and they were told that they didn't need to. When they're 80 or 85 and their health maybe starts declining and they need
That's when they need
medication,
help. They need hospice. They need things like that.
right, when they need medication, they find out that some of these medications are four, five, 800, sometimes a
Right.
couple $1,000s a month. It's ridiculous.
Right. So,
Then they try to get help and they find out that they should have had a drug card, and Medicare penalizes them 1% for every month that they don't have a credible drug card or coverage
right.
from the
So
time they turn 65.
it turns into a mess.
It turns into a financial
Uh,
mess.
right. Where now they're becoming more dependent than they, might need to be on the family, and
Yep.
it sounds like a sad story.
It is kind of a sad story, and it's an interesting setup. I
Right.
mean, whoever the powers that be were that set up Medicare, they tried to set it up that it would, so it would make sense, but really it is really confusing to a lot of people because, everything's A, B, C, D, and then you got on the,
Right.
you got the Advantage
It's
side,
like
and
a tax
that's,
form
they're
or
two
something.
different
Right.
realms, right?
Yeah.
You got the Advantage, and then you got the supplements. Well, all those are A through N.
Sure.
And so people get those confused with the Advantage plans. It's really confusing. And when I got into this business,
Yeah, that kind of leads me in because there's obviously a problem here that needs to be solved and needs to be addressed. And did you witness like a problem going on, and that's how you got started, doing this?
Well, I originally started off. I had my series 63, 6, and 65 investment advisor licenses,
Okay. I don't know what that is.
and they're, I hate to say it, they're a dime a dozen around our neck of the woods. There's one on every corner,
Yeah.
and there's only so much money
To be invested.
in the Upper Peninsula,
Right.
even to be
So
invested
you're
to
a
manage
financial
people's,
advisor.
yeah,
Okay.
financial advisors. So, I was like, all right, what's going to set me apart from everybody else? What can I do? What can my niche be that's a little bit different? And I started doing the demographics in the Upper Peninsula, and I realized that there was a website called Zip Skinny,
Yeah.
and I did the demographics that basically told me that in the next 15 years, between 13,000 and 22,000 people every year are going to be turning 65 in the Upper Peninsula.
One more time.
13 to 22,000 people every year are going to turn 65
It's just
over
in the UP.
over the next 15 years. Yeah. And so I was like, okay, well, let's start looking at who provides these services. And
Yeah.
when I started doing my market research for myself,
Sure.
I went and I basically Googled, and I'm looking up at your map on the United States there, every major town, Medicare planning, Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan,
Right.
Medicare planning, Ironwood, and I did that for every major population center in the Upper Peninsula, and I came to the realization that maybe just on what I was able to see on Google, there might be 5 to 7 people who are really
Qualified
qualified or,
to help
you
these
know,
people.
right. And so, realistically, in business, people are always afraid about what they might not be getting.
Right.
In this situation, I was like, there's no way 7 people, and if I get into it, 8, and now that my business partner makes 9, there's no way 9 or 10 people can cover that much territory
Yeah, I
and
mean,
help
these are
that many people.
thousands of people.
Thousands of people. I mean, we're only putting maybe a 2 to 3% dent.
Right.
If we were actually talking to one person every day for the entire year, you add that all up amongst 10,
A dent.
we're not even putting a small dent into that. So a lot of these people are depending on the internet.
Sure.
They're depending on 800 numbers.
It's dangerous, it sounds.
It is.
Sounds
It
dangerous
is,
to
and
me.
that's where we run into a lot of people who are older.
I get stiffed.
They get stiffed. The 80 something year olds, like I'm going to use an example up in Houghton County. Um, uh, they didn't have any credible drug coverage, and then they found out that their Eliquis was going to be $800 a month, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Sure.
I don't know exact
Yeah.
numbers for sure, but they found out that it was going to be that expensive, and then basically they found out that they were going to be penalized another $90 a month on their drug card if they were going to have help. Well, people are living off of fixed incomes. They're living off of
Their retirement.
their retirement, maybe, but you'd be amazed at how many people are only trying to survive off of 700 to $1,400 a month.
That's where I'm at.
Yeah, yeah,
You
but
know,
you know what?
pretty self-sustained.
But you know what? You have what you want, and you need, and what you need, and nothing more. And a lot of people, they're not living, even at that age, they're still not living within their means.
Right. Like buying, cars, buying toys,
Buying,
mortgage,
yeah, mortgages, stuff
insurance.
like that, or so it's just one of those things
It
when
all
you're on
adds
a
up.
fixed income, and really, when you stop and you think about it too, Colin. I used to work for AARP Foundation, where we would help train people who are 55 years of age and older with new job skills so that they could go out and find
Right.
marketable jobs in today's age. But you know, even if you needed to at your age, you would probably be able to find a job, or
Oh,
you're
right.
healthy, you're
Right.
where
This
you
is a different market.
yeah, this is a different market. So it's not like if you're trying to survive off of $1,200 a month in Social Security, you don't have a pension or any kind of
Sure.
401k,
Sure.
you're going to be able to go out and really find work because there's not a lot
Right.
of people
Like
doing
I
that.
could jump on the union,
Yeah,
I could jump on a trade pretty easily,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know.
So these people, their options for survival are a lot different. So when we do our planning, we look at what their monthly income is and help them be able to navigate whether there might be some assistance. I mean, not every time that we meet with somebody is it going to result in a sale for us.
Right.
But we find if we're doing the right thing
Yeah.
and we're helping people learn about Medicaid or subsidized housing or food assistance,
Yeah.
people don't even know that that's there.
Right.
People don't. So part of my job is to help them figure that out because if they go and they talk to the Social Security office, they're not going to let them know about Medicare assistance or Medicaid or any of these
Yeah.
other programs
Yeah.
that are out there for them. So
No,
that's
it's not in their best interest.
yeah. Well, it's yeah. I mean, think about it. They're just
Money.
processing people, and got their sights focused on the next person,
Right.
and so they're not really trained in that either. So
Right.
if people don't know how to ask the right questions, the person on the other side of that window is not going to be able to tell them this is where you need to go. Or maybe they might, but the people just don't know that it's available.
Sure.
So that's the first part of Medicare planning is figuring out where people are financially
Mm-hmm.
to see how we can help them.
Right.
Now, if they're just over the hump of not qualifying for Medicaid or some sort of assistance, then the next thing we need to do is try to figure out how healthy they are and try to design a plan around what's financially the best fit for them.
Right.
So then what we do from there is we say, okay, how healthy are you? Do you travel much? What kind of medications are you on? Or, oh, so you're not on any medications? Well, this is what we would suggest.
Sure.
This is a $12 drug card that we would suggest for you. And then once you start taking more medications, then call us if you're starting to take medications, and then we can adjust every year what kind of drug card we would
Right.
suggest for you. Or maybe they are on 10 medications, 12 medications. It's really insane the spectrum between healthy and unhealthy
Big time.
at 65. Some people are practically knocking on death's door, and some people look like they could run a doggone
And
triathlon.
they do.
They look younger than me and are in better shape than I am. They could kick my butt all over the map. But
Yeah.
so that's where we take it from there. And then when we do planning for medications, drug cards, what we get paid for a $12 drug card versus a $60 drug card is exactly the same.
Right.
There's no incentive for me to try to sell a $60 drug card,
No.
which I believe is good.
So okay. So a lot of these guys doing it otherwise are making commission.
Right.
That's what you're
Yeah.
saying.
It's not.
Yeah. That's where
So
sales get shaky.
that's kind of where sales get shaky. And I agree with Medicare and CMS on that.
Yeah.
You get paid X amount of dollars and that's it.
Yeah.
So it forces you to do the right thing for the client, regardless of whether you're selling them a 12 or a $60 drug card. However, somebody who's paying $60 can save literally thousands of dollars
A year.
a year. So that once again, you get back to that calling that 800 number. And that person on the other end of the phone that is recommending drug cards,
Yeah.
they just say, "Hey, what can you afford per month?" And so if somebody says, "Hey, I can only afford $15 a month," they say, "Okay, well, I got this drug card right here, blah blah blah,"
They might not get what they need.
and they might not get what they need for the formulary of their medications.
Sure.
So what I do is I take all your medications, plug it into Medicare's system, and then Medicare will inform us what the top five drug cards would be for their annual cost.
And that
And
makes
so,
sense. You know,
yeah,
that's the essence of business.
yep,
It's two parties coming together and getting what they need from the situation.
yep,
They're collaborating with their resources
right.
to give both parties what they need. They get Medicare, you get enough money to survive and be happy. You seem pretty happy.
I love what I do.
What keeps you motivated and passionate coming back every single day?
Working with people. I just love going out and helping people, and regardless of whether or not it results in the sale or
Sure.
not, I just
You feel like you're making a difference?
I do.
How?
I really do.
Like we got
Because
technical, but I just sound like a general. You go home at the end of the day and it puts a smile on your face. Like,
yeah, I do because it gives me perspective.
yeah,
Um, I wake up in the morning and I thank God for everything that I have.
right,
I give thanks every day, and I go to bed every night and I give thanks because even though I might talk to 4 or 5 people a day, once again, I'm seeing a wide range of scenarios. People that maybe have had a difficult life, okay?
mm-hmm,
Maybe haven't been given the best information, or
sure,
maybe they were raised a certain way and that affected the outcome of their story,
right,
either for the better or not. So every day when I go out and I try to help somebody, whether it's for the better or the not, if they're in the not category, if I can help them make their life better,
yeah,
then that's worth it to me.
big
And
time.
yeah, I call it the law of divine return. If you're always doing the right thing, it's going to come back to you.
Goes around, comes around.
What goes around comes
That
around.
is
Exactly.
that is truth, and the cool thing about that is it's always true. Doesn't matter who you are, where you are, when you are. It's that kind of stuff's always true,
Hmm.
right?
It's biblical.
It's laws,
It's just natural law.
right?
Yeah.
See, I dig stuff like that, and I, I'm not always able to draw connections between um, positions of helping or teaching that are indirect.
Hmm.
You know, it seems. Do you feel like this is a direct impact or a more indirect?
The crazy answer to that is yes and yes.
Really? That's kind of
I know
cool.
that's kind of a cop out answer,
Yeah,
but it can be both.
yeah.
It really can be.
Do you ever get to see the result?
Yeah.
What does that look like?
Um, for instance, giving somebody the right information and how that can affect their family. For instance, I can't use any
That's
names,
fine.
or, I'll give you a scenario. We made recommendations, and roughly, I don't know, 2 or 3 months later, they found out that they had brain cancer, and they were told that they needed to go home and get your affairs in order. And so, because of our consultation with them and them trusting us, they decided they were going to go off to Mayo Clinic and go get the best care. And because of the consultation that they had with us, they were
Right,
able to go get the best care.
right. You
And
had them covered.
and they were covered. I mean, they had, at that time, their deductible was 162 or $164, and that was all they paid. And she's now fully recovered, in remission,
Wow.
and the family. Every time we talk to them, we get to see people on average 1 or 2 times a year. These people become family to us, or
Yeah,
not family, but close friends, or
yeah.
I mean,
They
and
know. They have a sense of what you're doing.
and they really see that value. That's the value added to what we do. And so sometimes in every industry. I don't care if it's the insurance industry
Yeah.
or you're a used car salesman. I mean, you're always going to have the extreme on both ends. The people that do very well by doing the right thing,
Right.
but then you're going to have the opposite end where people are just trying to make a buck, and
Shysters.
and it gives practically every industry a bad name.
Yep.
I mean, I can't think of one industry that people can't say that they've been screwed over by somebody in insurance or screwed over by somebody who sold them a lemon car.
Right.
I mean,
But it's
and that
not.
everything in between. I mean, every industry's got that.
Yeah. Sales can make a bad rep for something, but
Yeah,
I don't think that it's doing. It's not. It's not harmful. It's not harmful because you have both spectrums. You have the option to, build a relationship with somebody like you built with these
and
people.
that's the way I look at it. My parents are in their mid 70s, and every time I sit down with them,
Like you couldn't
I
have.
visualize that I'm talking to my parents and what kind of advice would I give my parents
Right.
if my parents were in that situation.
And I find it interesting that you probably have a lot of insight with like end of life processes and how people just how people are at that age. Do you see any like common traits or like common tendencies with people of the older generations? This would be like baby boomers at this point, right?
Right. I think a lot of people are fear,
They're fearful
fearful,
in general.
fearful in general, and that's pretty much I call it one of the major illusions to life.
Yeah,
And fear, it'll either stop you dead in your tracks or it'll motivate you. And what I see as a common trait amongst most people that I talk to is fear of death.
yeah,
We do some long-term care type planning, asset protection type planning. And so those are really difficult subjects that people don't want to talk about.
right,
They don't want to think about what's going to happen if I go to a nursing home or what's going to happen if I die or,
sure.
who am I going to leave, probate.
It's responsible to think about that kind of stuff.
Right, right. And so it's really hard to talk about those subjects. Some people are like, let's talk about it. And some people, I would say not some people, most people are like, I don't want to talk about it.
Right.
So by the time it starts going downhill, it's too late.
Exactly. Because then that creates irrational thoughts. Like you're not gonna think the same way
Right.
when
Exactly.
you're going downhill like that.
Exactly.
I was actually having this conversation with a friend the other day, and I think it'd be interesting to ask you, what would you do if you found out you had cancer and you had a certain amount of, time to live?
Um, I would live life. I'd live in the present.
Would you do anything different?
Yeah, there would be some things that I would maybe do on my bucket list,
Yeah.
and there would be things that I wouldn't concentrate on. But
Yeah.
I we're gonna all go down somehow.
Yeah.
So my feeling, my belief is that we live life in the present. We forgive
Sure.
all of our indiscretions, whether they're somebody else's or our own in the past.
Right. Forgiveness will bring love.
Forgiveness brings
Right.
love.
Love for yourself and love for others.
Yeah, and so to me, there's no other way to live other than the present. And if you live right in the present, the future will take care of itself.
That's right. Because yesterday's history and tomorrow's a mystery.
Exactly.
So I would counter question. I totally agree with you.
Well, there's react and create.
But I would
Okay,
I
so
would
the
counter
camp,
question. I would say, why aren't you doing those things? You said you have a few things on your bucket list.
because every decision I make is out of love. And so, because I love my children, I love my family. Sometimes the decisions that I make based on love are not always what I want to do.
Right.
When I was your age, I loved myself so much that I did everything I wanted to do. And then when I settled down and have a family, I redirected that love in a different
Sure.
direction.
And that's even really refreshing to hear.
Thanks.
you know, from older people, you know, 40s, 50s, something like that.
Yeah, I'm late 40s.
So going into your older years with that mentality
Mhm.
is so beneficial. Um, and I think somehow that gets lost along the way in life.
Yeah, I think in order to experience that which you are, you have to experience that which you are not. And so
Elaborate a little bit on that.
once you have experienced that which you are not, then you can experience the better side of that which you are better.
Right.
Because you can't be thankful for the things that are good in your life unless
Mm,
you experience the things that are horrible.
right.
You have to,
Like learning to embrace the pain.
yeah. I mean, that's what helps us evolve.
It's the only way to grow.
It's the only way to grow.
Right.
You know, I mean, look at the pearl. That pearl is made because that oyster had been uncomfortable for its entire life.
Right.
So, I mean, you gotta go through the bad
It's
in
because
order
of
to,
sand, right?
yeah,
It has sand stuck in there, so
yeah.
it makes it into.
It irritates it and it collects and compression, and you got some beautiful little pearl that comes out of some poor oyster's
Right.
suffering.
His whole life. Right. That's cool. And don't give your pearls to swine, right?
Don't cast your pearls amongst the swine. So, you know, I think every day we go out and we give good advice to people with the best intentions.
Sure.
And hey, I'm not gonna. In my practice, there are people that might be vibrating or consciously at a different level that they're not going to trust me,
Right.
no matter how good my intentions are, no matter how good the advice that I'm giving them is. They're gonna not take it, and that's entirely up to them. I've gotten to a
Right.
point in my life where I'm not going to let that affect me.
Right. And
Don't
that's
cast your pearls
to swine.
to swine.
Because people only hear what they want to hear,
Right.
right? And they only hear what they're ready to hear as well.
That's true too.
Not everybody's ready to hear all that.
Not everybody's ready for the information that you're giving them, because sometimes the information's either too much or they're just not vibrating at the.
When you say vibrating, are you talking kind of about the energy? Because we kind of touched on that before we started about, you said old energy in new energy or new
Correct.
energy. Is that it?
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
So energy, we all emit energy.
Mm-hmm.
I did an experiment with my family, and I guess I'll back it up because it kind of helps to explain.
Sure.
5 years, I did go through a midlife crisis, and I was suicidal. Um, I had a bad string of luck, and things weren't going my way,
Yeah,
and it's something I had to go through.
definitely.
So, in the process of trying to heal myself, I learned about energy. We all vibrate. Our brain waves are alpha, beta, theta, delta,
Sure.
gamma.
Microscopic brain waves
Right.
being
So
emitted.
when we're not in a good place, we're stuck in beta. And so these waves that we emit and this vibration that we emit, because everything vibrates. I don't care if it's a rock outside or
Sure.
it's those trees outside or animals or whatever, we all vibrate. So,
But not necessarily sound. Like you're saying, these are beta waves, alpha waves. Like sound waves are different.
yeah, there's different types of
I
waves.
understand.
Yeah, there's different types of waves. So, when I realized that there was a Japanese scientist, Dr. Yashimiro, I'm going to destroy his name, forgive me.
Okay, you're fine.
But he was able to prove that water could be molecularly restructured.
Wow.
Okay.
I've heard about that.
Yeah. And so he would. he would charge water with positive or negative energy, and then take pictures of them frozen, and the frozen water molecules would either be beautiful and symmetrical, kind of like a mandala,
Yeah.
or it would just be just totally distorted.
Like self-imploded.
Yeah, just dead.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so after studying this, I was just like, I got to try this for myself. And so what we did was we boiled rice, and after we got done boiling it, we put it in 3 different containers.
Yeah.
We labeled container number 1 love, container number 2 nothing, and container number 3 hate.
Yeah.
And we gave love. And we took the nothing one and we just kind of put it up in
Sure.
the cupboard, and kind of left it alone for 2 weeks. And it was kind of funny at first, but we gave the hate container hate,
Like screaming at it and stuff.
screaming at it, telling it sucked, you're bad rice, we hate you,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah.
But
Then,
genuine hate.
yeah, if the kids had a bad day, they would take it out on the rice. But the love rice, we told it, hey, we love you, you're good rice, you're worthy.
Yeah.
And
How did it turn out?
the proof is in the pudding. Proof is in the rice, I should say, not the pudding.
Would you eat it or what?
No,
How'd you
no,
find
we
out?
took pictures of it after 2 weeks, and
Yeah.
when we took the lids off, the rice that we gave love to looked like you could still eat it.
Yeah.
The nothing rice that was just left alone had a little bit of mold growing on it, and the hate rice was completely black with mold.
Get out of here. That's pretty cool.
It's awesome.
That's pretty cool.
So
So that proved the vibration.
that proves,
to
yeah,
you,
that
the energy.
to me, that proved to me that the energy that we emit has a direct effect on the energy of other people.
Yes.
And so that was a big eye opener for me.
Yeah.
I'd always been, up until I had my little crisis or whatever you want to call it. I'd always been a pretty positive guy,
Yeah.
but that was like that quantum fourth dimension stuff that nobody sees.
Right. Like quantum physics.
Yeah.
Things like that.
It was
The
just proof to me.
unexplainable. Yeah.
So when you start looking at the fact that we're water, the common denominator between that rice and us is the water.
Big time.
Our brains are
So is carbon too.
carbon, yeah, and so our brains are bathed in water. Our
Yeah.
brains are made up of water, and our cerebral spinal fluid
Yeah.
is 1 molecule away from salt water, and we generate up to 5 liters of cerebral spinal fluid a day.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So if water can be changed molecularly,
So can we.
so can we.
Yeah. And now, have you been able to tap into that? Like when you're talking to people or like interacting with other people, are you conscious of that? Are
Yeah.
you able to to read these vibrations as
I
you get more?
Yeah, I have been able to fine tune my empathy.
Okay.
I've become more of an empath. So I can actually pick up where people are. And I find the more I vibrate and the actual vibration is 528 hertz.
Okay.
That's the vibration, that's God's vibration, love. 528 hertz. So the more
Well, that's our vibration, right?
that's where
We're capable of it.
that's what we're actually capable of higher vibrations than that. Joy is a higher vibration than love.
Interesting. This is new to me.
It's good stuff, isn't it?
It is. It's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, so I take that into my practice.
Okay.
And I think to me, when I go out every day and I'm able to control my vibration, it affects the people that I'm consulting with.
Oh yeah.
Because like attracts like,
Right.
right?
It's just like you're reading somebody's energy. It's not the
Yep.
first time I've heard this.
Well, yeah, and it's in music, and
Art form. It's in
it's in the
art form.
Bible. It's in Hinduism and
Yeah.
Buddhism,
It's in
and
art. It's in, yeah, like you said, music. It's in
right,
culture. It's in, you know, being in the same reality with
yeah,
somebody, just having a conversation.
yeah.
Plenty.
And I think what I like about
I think pop culture like stumbles upon it sometimes.
exactly, well, I mean, that's part of the going from generation to generation too.
Mm-hmm.
Pop culture is always changing with the
Yeah.
generation,
Yeah.
and I always when I'm talking to somebody in their 90s or they're close to 100, because sometimes we'll get phone calls or
Wow.
whatever. I always say, "Hey, man, how did you make it this far?
Right.
I mean, what do you attribute your longevity to?" And there's always, once again, common denominators. I eat right. Um, I forgave quickly. I
Low stress,
low stress. I was always happy. I tried to
exercise,
stay happy. I
active.
exercise. And all these things they're in the Bible. They're in the Quran. They're in
It's
all
all,
these
yeah,
other
it's all the
religions.
kind of, the same thing. It's all the
Yeah,
same message, just portrayed differently.
yeah,
At least that's how I see it.
yeah, yeah,
And we're all trying to like pick up on this energy that you're talking about. Everybody in their own way,
yeah. Everybody has got
you
the
know.
ability to. It's actually called biomutilation.
Sounds scary.
It is. It does sound scary. Well, free radicals and
Oh yeah.
free radical sounds good, right? Free sounds like
It's
a
not
positive
good.
thing. It's not.
No. Free
But that's the
radicals in the
freaky thing.
bloodstream, yeah. You need amino acids.
Yeah. Yeah.
Electrolytes.
Electrolytes.
Right.
But I mean, free radicals, it's kind of a mind bend.
Kinda, yeah.
Yeah.
Somewhat.
Free radicals mean positive. But
Right.
in the taking care of yourself side, it's not a good
So
thing.
what did you say? Biomutilation? What's
Biomutilation,
that?
vibration.
Okay.
It's a medical terminology for vibrating.
Right. So, what do you pick up on these people? What do you pick up on these people who, I mean, they either have it or they don't, right? There's people who are awake and aware of this energy, of this universal law, of this universal,
Facial features,
yeah.
how their forehead is,
Seriously?
yeah, body language,
I feel like body language is a pretty
body
easy.
language is a huge way to pick up on people's vibration.
What do you notice? Little things. That's interesting.
It really depends. How are they sitting? Are they slumped over? Is their posture?
Sure. It's pretty
Somebody who
good.
feels good about themselves, that love themselves, presents themselves differently. Anxiety is part of that
Closed off, closed
closed
down,
off. Yeah, and even working with kids and start the cycle. I mean, you can tell that some of these kids have issues, and you can just see in their posturing and their body language. Once again, I'm not going to use names, but when we were photographing people for the last event, how they carried themselves when we were taking their individual pictures showed really whether or not they had learned anything from the Start the Cycle program or not.
No doubt.
Did you pick up on that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
big time.
They didn't want to take their picture. Their heads were doing this, off to the side, or they refused to smile. So even if we had 17 to 20 kids in there was still 4 or 5 left over that still need some work.
Right.
And so, that was part of the process, is saying, hey, what did we do? What did we didn't do? What should we do for this individual if they want to be in the program again next year? How can we tackle this to help get them so that
Yeah.
they're vibrating with no anxiety, they love themselves, they're worthy, that they don't have that self sense of unworthiness.
Sure. And in older populations, do you think that it fades away sometimes? I think something that you said was interesting about younger people being, I guess, vibrating on a higher level
Mm-hmm.
than some older people who have the experience component,
Mm-hmm.
but like don't embrace life. They don't stay passionate, don't stay engaged.
Exactly, they're done. When they're done, and they kind of give up.
And you see this happen.
Yeah. Oh yeah. My dad's 74 years of age. He loves life. He actually had a, sorry, Dad, but if anybody hears this or knows you or whatever, but he had a bulging aortic aneurysm. He actually died a couple times on the operating table. And most people would have, that would have been a debilitating, um,
Traumatic event.
traumatic event.
Right.
And a lot of people would have just said, I'm going to sit in a recliner and watch Jerry Springer and die,
Right.
or watch Fox
But
News
they
or
wouldn't say
CNN or
that.
whatever.
They wouldn't say that. That
Well, they
would be
wouldn't
the
say it,
reality of it.
but that would be the reality of it. They would have just given up and would
Sure.
have used that as an excuse or a crutch to not get back out there and live life. And my dad, I've been very blessed to have excellent parents in my life. My dad gets out there every day. He still works 30 to 40 hours a week. He's out there cutting wood. And
Yeah.
my parents are both, my mom and dad are very active. My mom does a lot of volunteering and
So cool. It sounds like it was a catalyst for something new.
yeah. Yeah, it actually was, well, it was a new beginning for my dad.
Yeah.
He died and came back.
Rebirth.
Yeah. Hey, and in the Bible,
Imagine that.
in the Bible, it talks about death all the time, but it's spiritual death. It's
Right.
not literal death.
Well, isn't spirit eternal?
It is.
So what do you mean?
Well, spiritual death means basically that
Like,
you're not living your life to the fullest. You're not the light. It's the dark.
right.
So the people who feel unworthy,
It's like a lack of reverence.
that give up, that is spiritual death. That's no will. That's death.
Right.
Until something happens and it revives them and it rebirths them, or born again.
Right.
That is the second,
By the grace of God.
by the grace of God. Yeah,
That's pretty cool.
it is cool. It really is. And also in the Bible, and I know I'm getting off into a big tangent.
I don't care. The Bible's good.
My
It's all
epiphany
good.
was in regards to this vibration was, there's many references to cultivating your field,
Yeah.
right? Well, we are electromagnetic beings. And so you always hear about magnetic fields, electrical fields. So these references to cultivating your field is not a farm field of
No.
wheat or corn,
It's
or
closer to home than you think.
it is your magnetic or electric field that you are supposed to be cultivating, that they're talking about, because you give what you get, right?
Yes.
If you want love, you get love. That is your field. That is your vibration.
Right. And to give and receive, a lot of
Yep.
people say open your heart, things like that. Open your heart for these things. And a completely open heart isn't just about give, 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 give.
Right.
It's also to have to shut down the pride and receive,
Yes.
and ask for help.
If you ever want a good read, I see you got some good books over here.
Yeah.
There's a book that
Tell the people, I'll read it
it's
too.
called The Go Giver.
The Go Giver.
The Go Giver. And I don't want to ruin the whole entire story, but what you just said is a part of that book.
Yeah.
You have to, part of that law of attraction, vibration, you get what you give thing, is learning how to receive gracefully.
Yes.
And a lot of people
Essential.
have a hard time doing that, because that's how our culture has kind of raised all of us,
Yep. Looking for outcomes.
Yeah,
Self-sufficient.
right.
Independence.
Yeah,
But that's not true freedom.
I agree with you.
That's not sovereignty.
I agree with you there too.
That's more so dependence on the system.
Right. See, I think it's so cool that you're the age that you are, and when I was your age, not in the same place that you are. That's awesome.
It's
I
a
really
privilege.
commend you. Yeah,
Honestly.
it's refreshing. It gives me hope.
Well, good. Yeah, you should have hope for others, right? No, thank you. But that's just interesting to me. um, that it does create that dependence. And, you know, in working with, you know, the people that you have, what does what does the system do for them?
Well, I think,
Is the problem that you go out to solve created by the system or created by the people?
and I'm going to do it again, yes and yes. Because the government is always as good as the people,
I agree. Just like,
okay?
you know,
So the people have created the system through our voting at the polls, picking our
sure.
leaders, whether it's at the state level or the federal level, and we're only as good as our government. And I believe Thomas Jefferson said that. I believe.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he said that. But you know, we also, the more conscious we become as a society, the more we realize what's happening with our government.
Right.
It goes hand in hand. The more self actualized you become, the more you realize your I am,
Matters.
the more the government has less control over the people.
Hmm. Right. And a lot of people my age want to run away from it.
They don't want to have any. Well, it's fear. Once again, it's fear.
Well, fear is just about everything.
So, part of this Medicare, Medicaid planning thing, to try to stay on subject but
Sure.
go off on small little tangents, is realizing that you're a trust. Do you know much about trusts?
I trust myself.
Okay, in God we trust.
Sure.
It's right there on the money on our Federal Reserve notes. Everybody is a corporate trust. There is the living and breathing soul, you,
Okay.
and then there is the corporate trust.
Like my social security number.
Bingo. So in Medicare planning, what people, and the reason why my answer is yes and yes, is that we created it. We created the fictitious all capital entity, i.e., our names.
Sure.
And then there's the upper and lowercase living and breathing soul entity, the real us.
Which could be nameless, potentially.
Yeah, we'll keep it nameless, but you know, I mean, you look at my social security card, my credit cards, my driver's license, my
Sure.
concealed weapons permit, my
Sure.
utility bills, my
Yeah.
charter cable bill.
So there's a difference now.
There's an all capital U
Mm-hmm.
and there's an upper and lowercase u.
Okay.
So if you pay attention to your mail, everything that you put your sign of nature, your signature on, is the all capital U.
Oh shit.
No shit. They have to make the offer to the living and breathing soul you, the upper and lowercase u. So when you get offers in the mail, it's always to your upper and lowercase name until you put your sign of nature, your signature on it, and then you turn into the all capital U.
Huh.
So going back to your question, have we created it? Yes, we have.
Yeah. With the system.
Because we've allowed our past presidents and congressmen and senators to get us to this point where we are dependent on the Medicare system.
And it's creating two separate people, which is surprising. I had not heard it put that way in the past. So I've always learned that separation is dangerous and separation is potentially, you know, fatal to the soul, like we were saying, like
Hmm?
um,
Most definitely.
because you don't have that unity within. You don't have
Right.
unity of self. You don't have You're disconnected from others, and you're disconnected from the whole.
Right.
It can be macro, micro. It goes to,
Oh
all the
yeah.
way up
Yeah, I
to
agree
the
with you.
government, right? That's
It's
kind of where we're
everywhere.
at. To the country. We're not,
Duality is everywhere.
right.
Okay.
Does it need to be?
Duality is in religion. Duality is in our government. We look at people once again that are very unhappy, that are vibrating at dissonant frequencies. That is duality.
Extremely
Okay.
dualistic, yeah.
So now when people know who they are, who their I am is, and they're vibrating at 528 hertz, pure love, they are self actualized. The duality is taken out of it. The I am
But they still
is
have
who
their
they
all
are.
cap and their cap lowercase name.
That's part of the other mystery to the system that the entire world is in, quite frankly.
It's true. How do you, I
Canada
mean,
does
how
it,
do we deal with
Australia does it, Britain does it.
how do we deal with this many people? That's what, the question becomes.
Well, the awakening, as much of what I'm talking about in regards to the awakening of realizing that you're one and
Right.
not the duality person that you
Like you and
think.
I?
Yeah,
Right.
so part of that discovering yourself is learning the difference between the private side and the public side of our federal government.
Right.
So the difference between
Because
being,
that's the reality.
that's the reality. That's what they have taught us or indoctrinated us into believing in school and in church. And I know that, I'm sorry if I'm offending anybody out there that's listening to this. They might disagree with me, or maybe they will. But you know, a lot of people think they're separate from God.
Sure.
Okay, because God is not a forgiving God, or God's going to punish you and send you to hell, or you got to be a good boy or a good girl because
You
you
be
want
punished.
you want to go to heaven. If you don't, if you're not, you're going to go to hell, and you're not going to get any Christmas presents at Christmas if you're
Right.
back. So that's all part of the same, and there's a whole nother topic of conversation just on that alone.
No doubt.
Then on the federal level, on the Medicaid, Medicare planning level, and this is where I went down this rabbit hole, was realizing that there is we the people, but in the original Bill of Rights, there is nothing about the citizen. The Constitution was written,
Wow.
we the people.
As a whole.
Okay,
One.
right, one. The flesh and blood, living souls, we the people. Citizens and persons are corporate constructs, corporate trusts.
They're completely made up.
All corporations are fictitious. Corporations are always, when the official documents are written, are all capital. So if you are a Medicare benefit, and this is where I kind of go off, it remains on topic, but it's off topic.
Well, this is your why right now.
Yeah, so I tell people, look, hey, you're on Medicaid. That is your, don't get hung up on the fact that you're on Medicaid, because we are the creditors to the United States of America, the corporate United States of America. We are the creditors when we're born. Our energy, our life essence is monetized. Okay? So if you're on Medicaid, if you're on food subsidies or housing assistance, that is actually coming out of your Social Security account because it's the trust. You are a trust because
That's what you said.
if you're the beneficiary, who's the trustee and who's the grantor? So that is where the Medicare system comes from, because you are the Social Security beneficiary. You are the Medicare beneficiary.
Right.
So if you're picking an Advantage plan, companies like Blue Cross, Blue Shield, Humana, UPHP, United Health, the government is paying them to manage your trust,
Ah, yeah.
health wise.
Okay.
Okay. So if they're acting in trust, they have to do what's in your best interest, but they act like they're doing you the favor and that you are subject to their rules. But actually, if you're the beneficiary, then they are subject.
Yeah.
But people don't realize it's the same thing with,
It's kind of
uh,
like parents too.
yeah, well, they're acting in trust. And parents, it is a
We're
privilege for
sorry.
your parents to raise you. It's not a right in
Right. Right.
this
We're
system.
looking out for you, right? That's the big thing. We're looking out for your best interest. Well, don't deny me this opportunity to learn.
Right.
Don't deny me this opportunity to live.
People people forget that there is a fine line between being force fed what the government feels is best for you or for the masses
Yeah.
because they're acting in trust and they don't realize that as the beneficiary they can force. So when I call,
Big.
so one of the services I provide over the phone, if I'm trying to reel this back into the Medicare portion of my planning practice, is that if people are having issues, they call up and depending on how well that agent on the other line has been trained, they get an answer. They might not always like it, or maybe they do, and then they can live. They either have to live with it or not.
Sure.
Well, I tell my clients, don't call them, call me. We'll get on a three-way conversation and we'll have a conversation so that everybody
It's on the
can
same
is on the
page.
same page
Like you see both sides of the coin.
so we can see both sides of a point because if there's an accident and you got five witnesses, you're going to get five close stories, but they're each going to be unique.
Sure.
Okay? So then what we do is we reserve our rights because if we're corporations, all corporations can reserve their rights because we're a beneficiary corporate construct. So we get on the phone. The first thing I do is we reserve our rights on the recorded conversation and any verbal agreement on a recorded conversation becomes new contract law.
Wow.
It's basically
It
a verbal
sounds
contract.
intense, Kurt. It's
It's very
like
intense.
detective stuff. Like you wear a suit and stuff and like get on these phone calls.
But you know what? I've used it and it actually has worked
Right. And
because
to benefit the client.
I'm the advocate for the client.
Yeah.
That's what they're getting when they work with me.
Right.
So once these people realize that this is on a recorded conversation and our rights have been reserved, they have to be very careful about what kind of information they're giving both myself and the client.
Mm-hmm.
Because if they're not right and it's not part of their rules and regulations, they've just actually made a new rule and regulation because they're verbally bound by contract over the phone on a recorded conversation. So even if it is misinformation and we run and we make a decision to go with their product or whatever, they are bound to it if we want to force it.
That's kind of interesting.
It's very interesting.
So, yeah, to kind of reel it back in all the way, full circle,
Mm-hmm.
on like a philosophical level, like how did you find your purpose in doing so? Like, how do you look at what you do for these people?
My purpose is just, you know what? I won't kid anybody. My purpose was survival, but through some of my life changes, it's changed into my purpose is just to help people,
Mm-hmm.
whether that results in a commissionable sale or not. And I don't get up every day worried about how much money I'm going to make. I get up every day and my mission or my purpose is just to help people,
Yeah.
be the light,
Yeah.
do the right thing,
Spread the love.
spread the love, you
That's
know.
cool. And from what it sounds like, sometimes the worst things that happen to you can be the best things that happen to you.
Oh, I agree. I really do agree. I mean, it's at the time when I was going through my little deal, it seemed like the end of the world, and it was the worst possible thing. But in hindsight, 5 6 years later, it's the best damn thing that ever happened to me.
Right. Woke up
It helped wake me up.
big
Yeah,
time.
yeah, yeah.
Well, Kurt, we just did an hour. Can you believe it?
It was fast.
Right?
Yeah, that
I
was
had
pretty
fun.
awesome.
But thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me.
Big time. Till next time, guys.
Yep.
Ride the waves, dude.